there are good reasons for getting back together with an ex. Here's when reconciliation might make sense. Never, ever get back together with an ex. You want to just move on and keep focusing on what's in front of you, not on what's behind you. Hey, you broke up for a reason. Don't make the same mistake twice. We've all heard this advice. It's one of the most common relationship rules. The idea that once the relationship ends, it needs to stay that way. No contact is the best path forward. And honestly, at first glance, it makes sense. You broke up because something wasn't working, obviously. You don't want to keep repeating the same cycle over and over. You deserve to find someone who's better. And if you ask most people, your friends, your family, even strangers online, everyone's going to tell you pretty much the same thing. Don't go back. You'll regret it. They're an ex for a reason. Sounds logical, sounds empowering. It sounds like the kind of tough love advice that's supposed to help you move on and not get caught up in the rose-colored glasses. But here's the problem with that advice. Most people who give that advice are speaking from their own ego. Now, that may sound like a very bold statement, but just stick with me. Because when somebody tells you never go back to an ex, where is that advice really coming from? A lot of the time, it's coming from their own pride or their own fear or past wounds. Maybe they had a bad breakup and they never healed from it. Or maybe they regret how they handled a past relationship, but instead of acknowledging that, they just tell themselves, never look back. Or maybe they don't want to reconcile because it forces them to reflect on their own decisions, and they're not ready to do that. And here's the part that a lot of people never really consider. Some of the friends who are persuading you to stay single like having you single because they're single. And when you get back with your ex, especially if it ends up working out, that is going to reflect something very uncomfortable back onto that other person. Because maybe they were too quick to walk away from their relationship. Or maybe they should have been more open-minded and forgiving. Or maybe they are still holding on to something that they don't want to face. Nobody likes to feel like they made the wrong choice. So instead of self-reflecting and being self-aware, they double down on their belief and they tell you, never go back, move on, no exceptions. And before you know it, that belief becomes your belief too. Not because you've actually examined it, but because it's what you've been told over and over again. Not all breakups happen for the right reasons. Some breakups happen because there was a misunderstanding that just never got cleared up. Or somebody's ego or pride got in the way of an otherwise good relationship. Both people were too emotionally reactive, and the breakup was made in the heat of the moment. And if you look back and you realize that you might have ended things not because the relationship was fundamentally broken, but because of a temporary emotional state, that's worth paying attention to. And that's where the spiritual perspective comes in. Because from a spiritual perspective, relationships are not about making you happy. Relationships are about facilitating growth. And sometimes growth means humbling yourself enough to admit that maybe, just maybe, you were wrong. Now, before we go any further, let's make one thing very clear. There are bad reasons to get back with an ex. So if you're in a scarcity mindset, meaning if your main reason for getting back is that you don't want to be alone, that's not a great reason. Or if you're denying red flags because there was real toxicity and manipulation, or there was just a fundamental misalignment of values, that's not a good reason to get back. But there are good reasons for getting back together too. Here's when reconciliation might make sense. If you ended the relationship out of emotion, not out of deep reflection, or if you realize that your ego played a bigger role in the breakup than you originally thought, or if you had an unrealistic belief that there was someone better out there, someone who's perfect without flaws. Because here's the truth, and nobody wants to admit this, but there are no perfect people out there. Every single person you meet, no matter how attractive they are, no matter how kind, no matter how amazing they seem at first, they're going to have flaws. They're going to have baggage, and they're going to trigger you in some way. The question isn't, can I find someone without flaws? The question is, can I find someone whose flaws I'm willing to grow with? And if you already had that with someone and you let it go over something that could have been worked through, wouldn't it be worth at least reconsidering? Now, let's say you realize that you might have been too quick to walk away. Does that mean that your ex is now automatically waiting for you with open arms? No. And you know what? That's okay. Because reconciliation isn't about convincing them to take you back. It's about approaching the situation with humility, with sincerity, and with an open heart. And look, if they don't want to reconcile, that's on them, right? That's their karma. They're going to have to work through all of that. But if they do, then you've given both of you an opportunity to pick up the lessons where you left off. And this is where I like to use this school metaphor, because I like to think about relationships like a class in school. If you walk away from a relationship without finishing the class, without learning the lesson, guess what's going to happen? You're just going to have to repeat the same class again, but with someone else. The teacher might change, the classroom might be different, but the curriculum stays the same, because relationships aren't about finding the perfect person. They're about learning, they're about growing, and they're about evolving. So whether you learn the lesson with this person or you have to relearn the lesson with the next person, the lesson itself doesn't really change, because either way, it's the growth that matters the most. So if you're considering getting back with your ex, I want you to ask yourself, am I doing this from a place of love and growth or from a place of fear and loneliness? Am I truly willing to forgive and move forward, or am I just looking for comfort? Ask yourself, can I approach this situation with an open heart without my ego leading the way? And if the answer is yes, then maybe the relationship still has something to teach you. If the answer is no, maybe you've already learned what you needed to learn from that person and it's time to move on. Either way, the lesson is going to come. It's just a matter of when and with whom. So, what do you think? Does this resonate with your experience? Have you ever reconsidered a past relationship and you saw it in a new light? Let me know down in the comments. If you want to go deeper, I've written several books about spirituality, happiness, and personal growth. And you can also book a one-on-one consultation with me. All of the details are in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. Just FYI, we post a new video almost every day, so make sure you comment and subscribe below so you don't miss out on anything. And if you enjoyed this video, I think you're really going to love this one as well. And if you ever want to see a playlist of all of my podcasts or all of the plot twists or any other category of videos, you can find links to those in the description below.